Hello, everyone, and welcome to another great episode of the Business Minds podcast. I'm Christopher Shaw, the founder of BeInfinite.co, the company behind the Business Minds. And on today's show, we have a special guest today, Mr. Fred Mahusay with Fred Shots. He has been helping people look good for their business, their headshot for many, many years. And we're happy to have him on the show. So stay tuned. Hey Fred, how you doing?
Hey, doing all right, Christopher. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, man. Of course. I have actually had the pleasure of having your wife on last week?
Yes, sir.
And man, y'all are a dynamic duo. So I was like, man, we got to get Fred on there too. And I had the pleasure of meeting you a couple years ago, right?
Yes, sir. It was by chance we were in Sweetwaters, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Just diving up. So let everybody kind of know, we're an entrepreneur podcast. Let everybody kind of know who you are, how you serve, and kind of how long you've been doing it.
All right. Okay. Well, in case you can't guess, let me give you a close up. All right. So I'm Filipino. Okay. So we fall into the Asian category, which means that I believe my parents gave me a camera before they ever gave me a rattle or a stuffed animal or a little football. They were like, here's a camera. I'm pretty sure I was saying Kodak and Fuji before I ever said mama and dada. So as far as I can remember, there's always been a camera somewhere in my life. And, I didn't set off with the idea ever of having photography being like the mainstay and providing for my family. But, I still remember when I was maybe, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years old, my dad broke out a Polaroid camera and he took a picture of me. And when I saw that picture develop in front of me, it's like something just woke up inside me and said, I love photography. And so, fast forward to, I think it was 1999, and a friend of a friend said, hey, my friend is getting married and they need a photographer, but their pockets are kind of short. And I was like, well, I can do that. So this was in the film days. And when I looked back at it, at the end of the wedding, my first ever wedding, I spent around $400 between film and batteries and developing and proofs and prints and enlargements, and they paid me in a $50 Best Buy gift card. That's what we, that's what we call bad business, very bad business. So I was in it for about $350, but there was just something I was so. I mean, it was challenging. It was scary. I tell people that if you want to increase your prayer life, tell somebody you're going to photograph their wedding, because all of a sudden I was like, I don't really know do I really know what I'm doing? That whole imposter syndrome started to set in, and and I was feeling the heat. So I was like, oh Lord, please let this turn out, because these people are counting on me. Little did I know I was getting paid, or little did I know I was paying $350 to shoot their wedding. But that really set me on a path to where when we moved here to Texas in December of 2010, it wasn't to build Fred Shots. I'd already been photographing weddings and families and things back in Florida, but it was really just, kind of a side thing and, more of a hobby. But when we came here to Texas and we really needed money, all of a sudden it was like, hey, what can I do? And when presented with the options, I was like, I got this camera gear. I can go out there and I can take some photos. And so I was going to networking meetings, and nobody wanted to give the new guy with a camera the time of day. And I'm standing up there, look, I shoot weddings, and I'm showing photos. But it wasn't until maybe 6 months, 5 months later, I'm looking at those photos that I'm sharing, and I'm like, you know what? All of these photos, they have like this tropical feel to them, because it was in Florida. And I thought, man, you know what? I'm not connecting with anyone because they can't relate to this. They don't see this as the Texas area, and they're not thinking, oh, I want a destination wedding and I want to pay for that photographer from here. So, I mean, when I say we needed money, we needed money. And so I was looking at all these business cards of these people that I'd met, and I was looking at them going, who is this John Doe? Literally, that's what I would see on the card, because their picture is on there, but guess what? Their picture didn't match up to who they were in real life, because that picture was old or it was captured poorly. And so I just said, I have nothing to lose if I change up my messaging just out of nowhere. So I started focusing on headshots, and it wasn't until many years later, and I still don't know how to pronounce this word, Niche. Is it niche? or is it niche?
Oh, niche. Yeah. Yeah.
Niche.
There you
Yeah.
go.
So, because
Niche. Yeah.
yeah, like, my I think my educated friends, they're always saying in the niche,
Yeah. Niche.
you have to niche down something. I'm like, I don't even know what that is, but you know,
Yeah.
for who I am and where I am, the phrase that hit me was, the riches are in the niches. And I was
Wow,
like,
man. I like it.
and so I was like, man, that totally speaks to me. And so, well, at that point it did. And I was like, I just need something, because I would look at people's headshots and I would meet them in real life and go, that's not you. And so I just decided one day, you know what? I'm gonna shoot headshots. And so I literally walked into a networking meeting and I went from, hey, I'm your photographer, just a big idea that, everyone's a photographer because we all have,
Yeah.
and I would meet those people. I'm a photographer too. I'm like, oh, what do you shoot? Oh, I got an iPhone. I'm like, no, you're not a photographer. You have a phone. And that's no disrespect to the smartphone shooting, because those things are pretty impressive nowadays. But
Yeah, they're coming up. Yeah.
oh yeah, absolutely. And so what I realized was that there is a clear market for the professional headshot. And so I started looking at the things why people don't update their headshots. And the biggest ones are it's inconvenient and it's expensive. And so I took it from the standpoint of, you know what, I can come to you, I can, and I can set up the studio at your office, and it's a very moderate price, and I, my lowest, I'd say, humble beginnings, I was shooting headshots for what, $29.95, $30.
Oh man.
$30, that's right. And of course, I was young in the system, and I didn't quite have I didn't have any system down, as a matter of fact. And I might be photographing them for an hour, and then I might spend 4 or 5 hours editing. So
Yeah.
5 hours, $30, that's bad business. Again, again, it's bad business. However, what I learned in the process and how I streamlined what I do, and I was able to raise my rates. And then once I hit this groove of really figuring out who I am, what my style, what my look is, what it takes to achieve that, whether here in my home studio or in someone's office, that really, I began to realize that it's not it is about making money. I mean, the bottom line is we need money. All right. So I'm not going to say, I'm not going to, pie in the sky. We don't need money, that everything will come to you, and, what the Lord provides. Yeah, absolutely. But you still got to go out and work. And so at one point I realized that I'm doing more than just capturing a headshot, but that I'm capturing the person, because like it or not, we are our brand. Long before someone sees, my logo, they're going to see me and they'll be like, hey, that's Fred. Or at least hopefully, as the chief evangelist, if you should look like you in your photos, hopefully my photo looks like me. But when people see you, like, oh, it's Christopher, they will, I would, my goal is that they would recognize you before they recognize your brand. But that immediately they'll associate your face with your brand. And so I started, it became personal for me that I need to capture people the way that they were meant to be captured. And that's really what became my drive, was that I don't care what it takes. Well, I try to get it down to, now, on average, 15 to 30 minutes is all I need for a great headshot session. But, no matter what it takes, even to the point of, what does it take to pose for a great headshot? It's not just stand up there and go cheese. All right. Because that's what most people do. And most people have that look of, somewhere between psychotic and constipated. And I'm like, nobody wants to do business with that person. And so, and I tell people it's no secret, but just push the face forward towards the camera just a little bit. I mean, that looks better than this. All right. Because, I gotta have like 1 inch of chin. But if I do what even I do naturally, right? Look at this. I mean, four chin rolls right here. I look like, Asian Michelin baby right here. So, nobody wants that. Nobody absolutely wants that. So when it became all about the headshot and no longer about, I didn't set out to, it's amazing. It's amazing that I'm here now. We've been in the DFW since 2010. It's amazing that, I can say, man, I put food on the table and provide all these things, based on torturing people. That's really what it is, because the number one comment I get from my clients is, you want me to do what? say, yeah, push your face forward. Just push your face forward. And they're like this. And I'm like, yeah. And of course, I don't blame them for not trusting me, because no one ever says that. They're always like,
Yeah.
stand up straight. So, um, so now it's what, 2023. So I officially kicked off um, shooting professionally in the DFW at the beginning of 2012. Because we
Okay.
moved,
Wow.
so we moved here in December of 2010, and in that first year we spent building up Elizabeth's business, because that's where we thought initially was going to be our primary focus. And so while she was doing, business things, I was primarily the one getting our boys to and from school and seeing any of the things that they needed, attending to. So, I was, I would, a lot of people say, well, that's, non-traditional roles. And I'm like, we did what we needed to do to pay the bills.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
Right. So I tell people, it's like non-traditional roles, and you get to eat. I'm all about it. Like, I don't really care. But as the business grew, and we, Elizabeth and I, we had many days where we would sit down and, hash it out business style, things like, what were you thinking when you did that? Primarily she would look at me and go, how long did that take? How much did you get paid? And I'm like, well, 4 hours and $30. So we eventually, figured out the things that work and don't work. We tapped into our strengths. I like how you said, at the beginning, we're between Elizabeth and I, we're the dynamic duo. I like to tell everybody, I make us a duo. She makes us dynamic. Because I mean, she is the pal and power when it comes to what we do. Or, traditionally I tell people that we're a photo business. I'm the photo, she's the business. Because she just has that administrative mindset.
Yes, she did.
And when it comes to that whole being business partners and a husband and wife, yeah, there, I don't even tell you, like most of the people that I talk to, they're like, wait, you work with your wife and you work from home? And I was like, why, yes. And they have that look. And so, yes, trying to separate the roles and the business roles, but keep the relationship. It's not even a role that we play in a relationship. It's a relationship. There is no, I'm better than you or you owe me type things, but trying to keep those clearly defined and separated. And if I say something about how she administers, or she says something about, the creative side, it's like, ooh, that kind of packs a sting. Because
my zone.
That's right. That's right. You stay in your lane, and can you make me some milk and cookies? So, trying to balance that up was, it's still a work in progress, even after, a decade. But understanding that, she is big picture. She's absolutely big picture, and she'll ask things like, if it took you this long to do this now, what does that look like 6 months down the road when you have 20 clients in a month versus, one every 6 months? And I'm like, oh, let's see, 20 times. So, I'm not the sharpest crayon in the box, but I don't mind getting tuned up, with that little sharpener on the side. So I was like, she's kind of making sense, which brings around things like, why does it take so long, or why don't you get the quality and the results that you want? And a lot of it, I want to share with any photographers who tune in. Most of the challenges to building a successful photography business, the challenge is right here between the ears. It's not the camera gear, it's not the lighting, it's none of those things. It's the psychological attacks that I would wage on myself. I'm not as good as, name someone else, or he or she's been doing it for 20 years, and I've only been doing it for 10 years. There's no way I can ever catch up to them. It's like, got to leave all that behind and just focus on, what do I want to produce? What am I satisfied with? What are my goals for getting above where I am? And ultimately, I tell people all the time, people will pay for whatever.
Yeah.
I try to subscribe to the idea of, we don't judge other people and their work and their efforts because that's them, but I do, and I hate to say it, I do. I look at other photographers' work, and most of them, I'm like, oh, they did that with a flip phone. And then I'm sitting here going, I've got thousands of dollars of gear and I can't produce that. But every so often I'll see stuff and I'm like, somebody paid for that? They
Yeah, I
literally
know what
paid
you
for that?
mean.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
like, wow. I was like, man, if someone will pay for that, then surely they'll pay for my stuff.
Yeah.
But the very second that I think something's amazing and I don't get at least, 2 likes on a post, right in here, I feel as though that self-dropped nuclear bomb just
I know. Yeah.
bam, it just
Yeah.
takes me out, and I'm like, oh, I'm horrible. I'm gonna go get a job, digging ditches, or there's always applications being accepted at Walmart, and so
Yeah. Hey,
even
but you're in there too deep now.
oh
You,
yeah,
you, you're in there
yes
too
sir,
deep now.
I am, but it doesn't even matter because there are still some days where I'll take a shot and I'm like,
Yeah.
please don't anybody have seen that, or even more so, I'll take whatever it is, whether it's a family or a dance recital or a sporting event, and I'm like, man, that's incredible. And then I'll see someone else who was there. They just posted a whatever photo, whether it's from their phone, and I'm like, man, maybe I'm doing this all wrong. Maybe I don't need, you know, big lenses and big gear. Maybe I just need, the device, and I can just, and that's $1 million waiting to be happened from monetization. But yeah, I'm fully invested now. I tell people all the time that I do truly love what I do, and the ability to be a part of someone's success story just absolutely floats my boat. That's the thing that, when I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking, man, who am I serving today, and what difference will it make in their day, in their week, in their career? Where are they going with this? And so I mean, it's it really, I really could, photograph all day, edit all night, drink a couple of cups of coffee and go right back at it again, because it's
Yeah.
it it
You
it
love it.
just,
Yeah.
yeah, it absolutely is. I don't know that I could, that at 52, I don't know that I have the ability in me to learn new tricks for this old dog, because I'm like, I'm just thrilled with what I do. I love our office. It's just, my wife and I. So, well, actually, no, that's not true. We've incorporated our 20-year-old son. He's trying
Oh,
to
nice.
yes, sir.
Oh,
He's trying to figure out things, and so, as I said before, the the challenge between husband, wife, co-worker, different strengths, balance. Let's go ahead and throw a son in there. All right.
yeah.
And now now it's husband, wife, father, son, mother, son, co-worker thing. And I mean, there are some days where I feel like it's some sort of reality TV show where the two of them have made an alliance against me, and they're like plotting and scheming things and trying to get me to move in a direction. And there are other days where it's like, oh man, this got to be a confrontation. But
Yeah.
it's once again, it's all right up in here. Is it a confrontation? And I've had to start off the business meetings, not a family meeting, it's a business meeting. We're coming together
Mhm.
as coworkers, and I had to pre-qualify the entire meeting with looking at our son, saying, Samuel, I said, this is not a critique of who you are. This is not a
Mhm.
criticism. This is not, you're cut out of the will, and not that there's any money there, but like
Not
this.
yet. Not
That's
yet.
right. That's right. Actually, if you want money to be there, you're going to listen to what I say, so that you're more successful. But having the ability to have a business meeting as a family, that's a whole new dynamic. And and I can tell sometimes I'm saying things, and I can see that it's cutting him, and I was like, listen, I mean, as a business, if we weren't related and I was your employer, I would just say these things, except it
Yeah.
would be capitalized by your paycheck is on the line, or your future with this company is in jeopardy. I said, and there's none of that. And I've told him many times that, this is what I love to do. And if you love to do this and you want to take over, although you have to figure out a name, because I'm Fred, he's not. All right. So, and he's like, do I rebrand it Sam Shots? So I said, if you love it, that's great. I want you to find what you love to do, the thing that keeps you up at night and gets you up in the morning, and you feel good about you, and you feel within your mind and within your spirit that this is what you're supposed to do. Absolutely. I said, but if you don't love this like I love this, then that's great. You won't hurt my feelings if you say, Dad, I want to go do something else, because that's your life and that's your path.
Hmm.
And I've mentored several photographers across the nation that initially started off as friends, and then one day they're like, hey man, I think I want to pick up a camera, and I'm like, let's go for it. And some of them absolutely hated it, and
Hmm.
they were kind of like, I'd ask them, hey, how's that photo business going? Like, well, I sold my camera, and I'm like, that's cool, and they're like, you're not mad? I'm like, "Oh, no, it's like it's your life." And then others, I mean, they're killing it actually more than I am. And I
Hmm.
look at them and go, "What did you do?" And they're like, "Everything you told me." And I'm like, "I'm doing that. I'm doing that too, but I'm not killing it like you. And you got some magic in your back pocket there." So, really, I love photography. I love that, um, when I captured that right shot, that I see it and that they see it, and that they're
Yes.
excited to go out there. And because I mean, how many people have these great ideas, and they have their own mental games like, I'm not this, I'm
Yeah.
not that. I'll say, well, hey, let's look professional. All right, let's start there. So that when you hand your business card to somebody, and then a week later when they look at your business card and they go, oh yeah, that's Christopher. They
Yeah.
actually recognize it. And when they see you again, that you match who you are, online and in person. So capturing people the way that they're meant to, the way that they were meant to be captured, really is, I would say, the bottom line of why I do what I do. And without Elizabeth, when it comes to scheduling, so I could say that we initially had this podcast scheduled for earlier today, this recording.
Yeah.
However, it wasn't on my calendar, and
That's all right.
Elizabeth, she handles that detail. I'm not throwing her under the bus, not throwing her under the bus, because technology just absolutely failed. But when it
No,
wasn't
she
there,
texts me. Yeah, she's
yeah, so all right, so 'cause I was in a panic because I was just looking at the email going, okay, that's later on today, and I can't find it in my calendar. And I had that moment of, this is a business meeting right here.
yeah.
Mrs. Mahusay, can you get on the phone real quick so we can we can discuss this? And so it was, it was, it was just sheer panic. I don't know where I'm supposed to be, any of those things, but those are all details that I don't normally handle because I'm so
Hmm.
into what happens here in the studio. So it was a panicky point, and when we finally got that ironed out, she finished up with her call. She's a professional sales and leadership coach, her meeting, and she came downstairs and she's like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, it's okay. I said, it's technology just does what technology is going to do when it wants to do it and how it wants to do it. And so, you know, I suppose I could have been mad. I mean, the thoughts that I had at that moment was, I look terrible. I look like a failure. This is not professional. Christopher is gonna, he's gonna,
Nah, oh
like,
man.
he's gonna negative 5-star Google review me in a second. He's gonna downvote
Nah,
all of my posts.
nah,
Those
man.
are those are literally were all the things going through my head. I was like, oh no. I was like, and it seems so weak. It's like, hey, it's not on my calendar. I mean, I'm a grown man, and you can tell me that I can't manage my calendar? I'm like,
Man,
oh,
you're all right. One of the things entrepreneurship taught me over the years was grace, man.
mhm.
Just because you can plan out everything perfectly,
Yes, sir.
and then something just comes out of nowhere, and it's always something coming out of nowhere. And I've had so many times where it was my fault, and I had those exact same thoughts. Man, I'm
Mhm.
gonna lose this business. I'm gonna look this certain way. I'm gonna do this certain way. Then the Lord just showed me, like, you know what, Chris, you're gonna mess up, man. You're gonna mess up, and you're gonna have to own up to that. But then when something else happens to somebody else, then you remember, hey, you got grace over here. You need to show grace as well. So that's
Amen.
one of the biggest things, man. But you're right. That mental game is what you got to get over, man. That is the number one thing. You can buy all the equipment, you can have all the
Right.
strategy, you can have all the money,
Mhm.
and if you don't have that mental game, it'll mess you up. I'm so glad you you mentioned that and put that on there.
Hmm. Yeah. So I mean, it, and I emphasize the mental game so much because, well, one, that really is, well, it's one of Elizabeth's, messages that she's had,
Yeah.
before, many careers ago. She has always been a champion of, what's going on up here. Are you stinking thinking? Is your, we had this phrase called your skeptic tank. Are you super skeptical of everything? And so I realized that in capturing everybody the way that they were meant to be captured, a lot of people just have the wrong mental picture of themselves.
Oh yeah.
And at least, actually, I'd say probably 60% of my clients are women, if not greater. And I hear it all the time. I'm fat, I'm not pretty,
Yeah.
I don't take photos well. I hear all these things. I mean, and of course, I do like to point out here, you got me a little bit skinny here. So, that's an example of some of the work that I do in the background there,
Oh,
with
okay.
students. And, I hear it from, you know, these kids, these teenagers in high school, that, I mean, that's something that jumps onto people now more than ever, because we're such a visual social
Hmm.
media thing, is that I don't look good. I don't have what it takes to compete with, whomever. And I want to tell people all the time that it has nothing to do with those other people, because people want you. They love you. It's up to you to show them that you have the confidence in who you are. Because
Yeah.
who wants to do, if I were going to have someone, a contractor build on my home, or a surgeon cut me open, I don't want them coming to me going, yeah, uh, you know, that other guy, man, he's really good, and one day I hope to be like him, or I sure hope I can
Yeah.
do
Let
this
me go
surgery
get
like
him.
her. That's right. And I'm like,
Yeah.
don't touch anything around me. So if you don't have the confidence to believe,
Yeah.
that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, that you have purpose, that you have value, that you have something that someone else is definitely willing to invest in, then, I mean, you're kind of sunk. So in capturing people the way they're meant to be captured, I want people to know and trust and believe in themselves. So,
Yeah.
it's like, here's a stellar shot. It grabs the attention. It shows people that you're a professional. Because I tell people, don't trust skinny cooks. Don't trust surgeons with rusty knives. Don't trust a mechanic whose fingernails are clean. All
Yeah.
those things. And so it doesn't matter what the other people are doing. It doesn't matter any of that. What matters most is that you believe in you, because that communicates well beyond anything else. And I think it
Yeah.
definitely starts with a great photo.
I like that plug. Before we even get too much further, how can people get in touch with you? How can they, get some of these amazing headshots, man?
Okay. Well, the quickest and easiest thing to do is just to go to my website at
Mhm.
fredshots.com. And on there, you have examples of the work that we do, as well as the online scheduler. Now, ever since realizing that the calendar kind of glitched, I'm going to go look on the calendar, to make sure that everything's where it's supposed to be. Because we have there are redundancies in there between emails and the bank account and all those other things. But they can go to
Yeah.
fredshots.com, and
Okay.
and they can immediately schedule right there what works best for them, whether they schedule to come here into the studio, or they schedule me to go to them. And there's most of our services are on there. There are some situations where clients need something additional or something modified, in which case I would say you can call me at 469-718-9749, or
Okay.
send an email to fred@fredshots.com. And of course, all the socials, whether it's Fred Shots or Fred Shots Photography, you'll know, because all of a sudden there's just photos everywhere of seniors and sports, and
Everything.
just a variety of things out there. And so you can reach us through all the socials. We don't have Zanga or MySpace anymore, so we don't do that. But you probably don't even know what that is, do you?
No, I was about to say I
Yeah.
don't know what Zanga is. I know what MySpace is. I
Yeah,
don't know
so
Zanga. What is
yeah,
Zanga?
that's because you're young. All right, us old folk, is they invented smoke signals, dial-up modems, and then Zango was somewhere in there, shortly after AOL, hit the scene. So that's definitely, yeah. Anyway, that's off topic. You probably cut that out anyway.
You're good.
But yeah, so the socials, we primarily hang out between Instagram, which is Fred Shots Photography, Facebook, which is Fred Shots, and TikTok. Hey, I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, you
Because
need to sing and dance on there.
yeah, no, I don't have those moves. I got, I've got the old 80s and 90s club steps. So
Okay.
nobody wants to see that. However, I've seen
Funny,
everything go
man.
viral on TikTok. So this
Yeah,
time next year, I might be, I need a new handle like 50-year-old fresh dance moves or something. Look me up on my new account.
Well, with your personality, man, and with your passion, man, man, you're gonna be, like you said, you're already successful, already building this up. And I really feel bad that I didn't get to meet you sooner, man. I love your passion and your entrepreneurship, your entrepreneurship, and a lot of things. I wanted to talk about one more thing, like the confidence piece you said.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
I've learned that confidence comes from what? Trying something new and then getting over it, and especially something that you're kind of scared of. And when you said that first job you took at that wedding, you didn't have any experience and you were really just getting out there. But then after you got past that, you're kind of like, hey, I could do this. It wasn't as scary as you thought. And a lot of entrepreneurs, I think, they just don't get started. Like, they have this vision and they just don't get started. Whether you lose or whether you do a great job or you don't do a good job, you can at least learn from it. And I love how you went through that and told us, you were kind of scared of it, like, but because that's huge. I mean, a wedding is like memories for the rest of their life. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's a kind of a big responsibility for you being so young to kind of put that on their shoulders. So I have to commend you for that. And I like how you pointed that out because that is such a big piece on entrepreneurship. And then you talked about your system, having to create a system to where your time is used better. Oh,
Yes.
that is so important because people will get lost in that passion sometime and want to do every little detail and do all this stuff, but then realize, hey, I'm not making any money. Now you're out of business. You got to create some type of system to where your company is moving forward. I love those points that you brought up, man. I just wanted to chime in on those two before we keep going, man. I really like that you put those in there.
Absolutely. Yeah, get started. Nike had it best when they said just do it. Just do it. And then, I've had other people tell me, do it afraid, do it scared, do it not knowing the results, just jump. Now, of course, that works for certain things. I don't recommend skydiving, with the just do it. That's, I'd be the guy jumping out of the plane going, what did I forget? But when it comes to it, what is your passion? And I know you've heard this, that if you can get paid for what you love to do, then you will never go to work. You'll never go to work. And it's not that I don't see what I do as work or as my job, but I always bring it back to capturing people the way that they were meant to be captured. I had a gentleman challenge me in life. It's like, who are you and what's your purpose? I just looked. I was like, I don't know. I'm a photographer. He's like, no, that's what you do. And I was like, that's my purpose. I was like, no, that's not your purpose. I had to roll that over, and I was feeling all sorts of heat. I was like, man, I thought we were friends. Why are you asking me hard questions? And so, but I tell people that, once again, you have purpose, you have value, you have worth. If you're on the face of this earth, you are fearfully and wonderfully created, and there is something for you in this life. And quit chasing what other people say, and listen to yourself. Now, of course, there are caveats and standards. If it's illegal, immoral, or unethical, that's not your purpose. All right. So I want to be a mass murderer. No, that's not your purpose. All right. But making a difference, that definitely, I believe, is the base of everybody's purpose. Make a difference. It's just where I make a difference, not in the business world or even in the photography world, I make a difference in people believing in themselves. It happens to
Okay, I
be
like that.
through a camera. All right. I make a difference in people being able to take that next step through my camera. I make a difference in someone, being able to put food on the table through my
Mhm.
camera. So making a difference is part of my purpose. And I, and I'm not ashamed of it. I tell people, it's, and to glorify God in all that I do. So if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, that means that there's someone else not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Oh man, that's
Because
powerful.
yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Because there's a relationship there. If I've been entrusted with breath in my lungs and the ability to get up in the day, I got to do something with it. I got to do something with it. And so if I'm not, then I'm being unfaithful to what I've been given. Every day is a gift. And at 52, I'm looking, going, how many more daily gifts do I have? Because, I'm old, all right? So
No, you're not.
I tell people I'm closer to the grave than I was to the cradle. So I need to figure things out even better now than I did, in my 40s and in my 30s, and back in my 20s when I was sure I knew everything. And you know, choosing to become a photographer, yeah, I said, when the first time I saw that Polaroid develop back in the original Shake It Like a Polaroid picture days,
Yeah,
Outcast song. It's like,
yeah,
you remember them, right?
yeah. I
Okay.
remember that.
All right. Okay. Except you're probably young, didn't even understand it. Actually, I'm sure there are other, if you listen to the whole song. Anyway, off topic. When I saw that photo develop, and I just felt this, wow, that's amazing. There was never I want to get paid to do this.
Yeah.
And there were, man, it's like I think of all the things that I did in previous careers and all my mindsets of, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and there's nothing wrong with working for someone else.
Hmm.
There, that's a very lucrative place, a very satisfying place for some people. I just happened to realize that wasn't for me, and so. Becoming an entrepreneur, that was never on my radar. I had it all planned out that I was going to stay with this company and I was going to do this, and in 10 years and 20 years and 30 years, and then I'm gonna have a big retirement party and all these other things. And when I came to the realization that what, I don't want to do that, this is what I want to do, all of a sudden I was like, but I mean, moving to Texas and leaving behind all of the known things, all of the structured things,
Yes.
all of the support things, and then coming here and going, okay. But you'd be surprised how motivated you get when you are legitimately hungry. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Man, that's so powerful, man. You hit on so many different points. I hope you guys out there listening that are y'all taking this in. There's a lot of different points that he really put in there, and the underlining is just like you just said, go for it. You got to go for it. And also, I love how you put in there's nothing wrong with working for somebody. Some people will
No,
get out here and then they'll just beat themselves up because they can't start a business or they can't do it the right way. When you can work for somebody, and then that you never know, improvement on that business may come to you. Now you have a business. You never
that's right.
know. So entrepreneurship can hit you in so many different ways, and then also doing a side hustle, staying at your main job, and then
That's
doing
right.
photography on the side. There's a lot of things. I think you were right when you say that we compare ourselves to a lot of stuff that we don't even have a full picture on.
That's
Right? We're
right.
looking at people that are on Instagram, and we're looking at one little piece of their whole. We don't know what's going on behind there.
That's right.
Um, so yes, that's man, that's really good, man. I'm so glad you came on the podcast, man. I'm glad that we could set this up, and I look forward to um, you know doing some more podcasts, some more business with you. And one more thing, too, you and Elizabeth are high school sweethearts, right?
Yes, high school sweethearts and college boxing partners. All right, because so we
Yeah.
we met in 1986. So I was a junior, she was a sophomore. She was the brand new girl at school, and as okay, so I'm gonna throw some scandal in here. All right, this will make for a great sound bite.
Okay,
All
cool.
right,
Give it
so
to
here we
us.
go. Long-lasting, deep, meaningful relationships can be formed on the basis of an exchange of body fluids. All right. So yeah, put that out there. I mean, if you go viral and you can retire off of that clip, just remember this, us small folks. So what
I
happened
give
was
you, I give
she
you percentage.
she was a new girl in school. She immediately, had herself a boyfriend, and on a we were both in the band, and we're going to an away football game. And so it's not like here in the Frisco ISD where they basically, play all around Frisco. We actually had to go 1 hour, 2 hours away. Well, her boyfriend dumped her. So she's all sad, right? And she's riding the bus, with her arms up and her head down, and her best friend says, "Hey, you're funny. You go cheer her up." And I'm thinking, I'm funny looking. I'm not funny. And so I try my best. I try to talk to her, all these other things, but she won't even acknowledge me. So I stuck my finger in my mouth, got it nice and wet, and I just stuck it in her ear. All right. And so she was like, hey, so I was like, hey, I got you to talk to me. So, I high five myself, pat myself on the back. But yeah, so, in that exchange of body fluids, I stuck a heavily salivated finger into her ear, and we became boyfriend girlfriend not long after that. And then once she was done with the rebound, she was done with me. She dumped me on New Year's Eve, so not throwing shade at my wife, all right. She did dump me on New Year's Eve. I'm just saying, and I'm not bitter. There's a little tick that goes along with it, but it's okay. And then through college, I mean, we were on again, off again. I do have to say that in the 9 years that we dated before we got married, the record is 100% Elizabeth and 0 Fred. I mean, 100% Elizabeth dumped me every single time, and Fred did zero dumping. All right, 0. Let me look
Now,
through here. 0.
Now Elizabeth's gonna watch this, Fred. Now she's gonna watch this, man. Hello.
Okay,
Can
I'm
you
back.
hear
Sorry.
me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, now she's gonna watch this, man. Don't cause any friction in your own home.
No friction.
In your business. Come on.
Right. Well, no, well, she is quick to remind me. She'll say stuff like, "That's true, but who got the girl?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's true. I got the girl. That's right." So, she'll bring that down. She'll bring me back down to earth.
And you guys are a beautiful family. Me and my wife are we're high school sweethearts too. That's funny too. So that's kind of why we have a connection on that. And we work together every day, just like you and Elizabeth do. So
there you go.
And that's why I was smiling so much when you were talking about that. Oh, I was just bringing up some. Now our kids aren't young enough to work with us. I mean, old enough to work with us yet, but they're gonna get there, and they're already talking about it. But
wait, but how old are your children?
10, 8, and 7.
Oh,
and my 8-year-old, huh?
They are old enough. Yeah. They are old, legitimately
right,
though. I mean, so for us, because we've been living that entrepreneurial life as our sole income since 2005. So,
oh, wow, okay.
I mean, so our boys were 5 and 3. And so back then, certainly, they couldn't pick up a camera, do any of those other things. But this is how we trained them up. We would do things like, can you help clear the table, later on, please do the dishes, because that gives me the ability to go work on this. And if I get this done, we're going to go to Walmart. We're going to go to the Hot Wheels section, and we're going to go buy a car. You get to pick it out. Cool. And if it's really a big thing, I mean, because Target and Walmart are like CVS and Walgreens, they're around the corner from each other. And if it's a really big job, we'll go to Target next, and you can pick out a different car, because it's all about that mindset of I'm the first to say, don't mix business and family. You got to keep those separate. Don't let those lines cross. But at the same time, as an entrepreneur, I mean, it's a family business. If Fred Schatz isn't hitting bank deposits, then we're not eating, or we're not doing other things. So rather than having our children resent the fact that that there was work that I needed to do that took away my time from them, I incorporated them into it because it would save time. It gave them a sense of a mission. Basically, it's like, man, I can do these dishes, and then we can go to Walmart, and so we can go, we would do all sorts of things. We would go to the mall and get a pretzel, just simple things. So we've always had this idea that, you're small, but we're not going to look down upon you because you're small or because
Yes,
you're
I
young.
agree.
And we want to get you in that mindset of, rather than one day I'll be able to, what can I do right now? And it goes back to that whole, man, just jump in and do it. And so they've always had that mindset, that, you work hard, play hard. And so, now they're 20 and 22, and, now one of them's on the payroll, literally on the payroll. And I mean, he's coming to me at times like, so Dad, you want me to edit those photos? So Dad, you want me to do this? And I'm like, man, that's kind of blurring the lines. You're like asking me as dad for work. And I'm like, but that, I as a dad, I want to know that my boys are equipped, so can,
Yes.
because one day truly, I'll be I'll go the way of dirt. And do they have what it takes? And not necessarily just in the photo business, but do they see opportunities?
Yeah.
There's so
Yes.
many opportunities out there. So yeah, you've got a workforce of 3 right there.
Yeah, I do.
Even if you have them do things like, hey, the trash can in the office, is full. Can you help Dad? Can you take that out? And
I
then
love
just,
it.
yeah, and then it can start, when they're young. Oh, when they're young, it's so easy. You can high five, hug. You can take a 5-minute tickle break or wrestling break or whatever. When they get older and they can actually wrestle, I was like, no, because you might win. You might win, and I don't want you to win. I want you to think I'm always going to be that guy. But you just start stepping things up, and we moved from helping out small things around the home and the office to, the backyard needs to be raked for all the leaves, to, whatever it was. We just started graduating them up in their responsibilities. And then, we started attaching a monetary figure to it at some point.
Yeah.
So that they would start saying things like, oh, hey Dad, can we go look at that Hot Wheels? And I'm like, well, how much money do you have? And and they're like, what's money? It's like, that's that thing in your pocket that comes out and just rains on us, right? I'm like, no. It's like, now let's transition you to the idea that my work directly impacts, my
Yes.
freedom or my entertainment budget or whatever it is. And so, we worked their way up. And then, I mean, they weren't even old enough to drive, and I had them out we were pressure washing the trash and recycling bins in the neighborhood. And
Oh, cool.
yeah, and absolutely, and I, of course, Mom scheduled it. I drove them there, and I was the supervisor, staying on the side. So no, that's not how you do that. This is how you do that. And so, I tightened up their routine and got them down to about 10 minutes per can. But for our recurring customers, it was what, $25 for the 2 cans. And I was like, and one day I was like, let's do some math. If you can do, $25, if you can earn $25 in 10 minutes, how much can you earn in 30 minutes?
Yeah.
And hold up fingers, they're like, oh, $75. I was like, how many $75 do you want today? And so that's 150 if you're doing an hour. And I mean, one day I think we did six can jobs, and they were like, "Ooh, sure, I'm tired. Sure, I'm hungry." I was like, "All right, let me call Mom and see, if she's got dinner on the make as we go home." And they're like, "No, Dad, we want to go out to eat." And I just looked at them. I was like, "Well, I don't have any money." And they're like, "But we do." And I was like, "Wait, you're gonna buy me dinner?" I mean, and I want to say they were maybe 12 and 14. 13
Oh
and
man, that's
15.
good.
And I was like, man, my kids are buying me dinner. I was like, as I get older, there might be hope. They might they might be able to take care of me later
You did a
on.
good job.
Oh, well, thank you.
You did. You did. Yeah, I met one of your sons. He was working at that. Elizabeth had the meeting at a coffee house or something. And he was
Yes, at
working
Sweetwater's,
behind
and
it.
he was
He was the
working
one.
there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's
Yes.
Sweetwater. Yeah. Okay. I didn't know the
Yes.
name. But no, man, Fred, this has been amazing, man. Me and you can talk forever. I love this.
Absolutely.
Let's give that website one more time for everybody, and then we'll
Absolutely.
give you.
You can just go to www.fredshots.com, or you can phone or text me at 469-718-9749. And remember, I'm the Asian sensation with the imagination to come take photos at your location.
Hey, well, I was gonna say what final thought you wanted to say, but that worked, man. Thank y'all. Thank you once again. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for everything. You guys, both of y'all are a power couple. We look up to you guys. A lot of entrepreneurs are too. And for everybody who joined us today, man, you can learn so much. This is so much wisdom that we're trying to impart on you guys. And until the next episode, stay be infinite.